For years, rabbis and some right-wing Israeli politicians have spoken of an ambitious idea, one they believe is rooted in Jewish history and religion: Greater Israel, or Eretz Israel. This idea has been raised throughout almost the entire 77-year history of Israel. But what has now brought it back to the forefront, drawing the attention and condemnation of nearly every country in the Middle East, is that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has raised it explicitly and directly. It seems that Greater Israel is no longer just a messianic vision, but rather something moving onto a more serious political agenda. But what does Greater Israel actually include? Who supports it? And most importantly, what would its realization mean for the countries of the region? Jewish Zionist migration to Palestine, funded by wealthy Zionists, began in the early 20th century. Despite opposition from the majority of rabbis at the time, this process continued, and in 1948 Israel declared its existence and independence in parts of Palestinian land. Throughout these years, the idea of Greater Israel, or more precisely, the whole land of Israel, has appealed to both religious right-wing nationalists and secular right-wing nationalists, those seeking to fulfill divine commandments about the beginning of redemption, while also creating facts on the ground to strengthen Israel's security. Greater Israel usually refers to the expansion of Israel's territory and sovereignty to what its proponents consider the historical and biblical land. Yet, there is no consensus on what areas it actually includes. The term has carried very different meanings for different groups. The first Zionist to raise the idea was the founder of Zionism, Theodor Herzl. For early right-wing revisionist Zionists, such as Ze'ev Jabotinsky, leader of the revisionist movement, Greater Israel included all of Palestine, Gaza, and the West Bank, both sides of the Jordan River, including today's Jordan, the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, and southern Lebanon. Today, some right-wingers use the term more narrowly to mean Israel's sovereignty over all of Palestine, since territorial claims over Jordan or Egypt would be politically costly after normalization of relations with those states. But not all Zionists are pragmatic secular right-wingers. For religious Zionists, the whole land of Israel is what God promised to Abraham in the book of Genesis, from the Nile to the Euphrates. This would include Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, parts of Saudi Arabia, and all of historic Palestine, including Gaza and the West Bank. This vision was also supported by Chaim Weizmann, leader of the Zionist movement and Israel's first president. These ideas have always existed in Israel's history, but were not always on the serious agenda. Israel signed the Oslo Accords with the PLO in the 1990s, achieving peace with a group that had fought the state for years. In 1994, Israel and Jordan mutually recognized each other. 26 years later, the Abraham Accords brought normalization with Gulf states. Bahrain and the UAE established relations with Israel despite strong public opposition due to the ongoing occupation of Palestine. Names such as Syria, Saudi Arabia, and Lebanon were also floated as potential future signatories. The Abraham Accords seemed to push the Palestinian issue into the background, until everything changed on October 7th. When Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israeli-occupied territories, Israel retaliated with massive bombardments of Gaza. More than 60,000 Palestinians were killed, and deliberate famine was imposed, shocking world public opinion and halting the progress of the Abraham Accords. Israel's behavior has also changed since that attack. For example, after the fall of Bashar al-Assad, under the leadership of Ahmad al-Sharaa, Syria repeatedly sent messages to Tel Aviv and Washington expressing readiness to normalize relations. Yet Israel still launched military attacks, occupying new areas. Israeli forces expanded their operations to the outskirts of Damascus, advanced into the Hermon Heights, crossed the demilitarized zone and declared the 1974 disengagement agreement void. The Israeli army captured Tel al-Batawarda and attacked the village of Beit Jin. Israel also struck Lebanon, Yemen, and Iran. In Lebanon, after the last war, Israel still has not withdrawn from areas of the south. It occupies 5 key positions: Al-Hamamis Hill, Al-Uwaida Hill, Jabal Balad Hill, Al-Labuna Hill, and Al-Azia Hill. Israel has rejected Lebanon's request for withdrawal and the deployment of UNIFIL forces. Speculation about Israel seeking to occupy southern Lebanon has grown, especially as efforts to disarm Hezbollah, the only force in Lebanon capable of confronting Israel, intensify. In Gaza, Israel has almost completely destroyed the Strip, making it virtually uninhabitable. This appears aimed at forcing Palestinians to leave, clearing the way for Jewish settlement. The situation in other regional countries is not much better. The confidence Israel has gained in the past 2 years, from Hezbollah's weakening, Iran's difficulties, and post-Assad Syria, has emboldened it to rethink its regional strategy and pursue more ambitious expansionist projects. These plans cover all of occupied Palestine, the occupied Golan Heights, and parts of Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon. What worries regional states most is that religious Zionists, who favor the maximalist interpretation of Greater Israel, now play a key role in the governing coalition. Given their high birth rate, their influence is only expected to grow. Under such circumstances, it would not be surprising if Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Egypt also became targets of these expansionist visions. Even if territory is not physically occupied, control of the skies is already happening. Israel aims to strike targets anywhere, anytime. Recently, Israeli warplanes violated Qatari sovereignty, launching an attack on Hamas leaders based there, something Washington was reportedly aware of. Arab states, since the Cold War, have been heavily dependent on the U.S. for security. Most of them cannot defend themselves without American support. Israel's new strategy, therefore, challenges their already fragile defense capabilities. The central question: will the radical, maximalist vision of Greater Israel prevail, drawing Israel into deeper conflict with its neighbors? Or will pragmatic considerations prevail? It is difficult to predict, but one thing is clear: the idea of Greater Israel remains popular among Zionists. And if circumstances ever allow for its realization, Israel will not step back, regardless of how the United States reacts. This will serve as a test for the long-standing strategy of outsourcing regional security to foreign powers.